Welcome everyone to another episode of Come Sit With Us here at EBS. I'm happy to have you here with us today. My name is Steve, and what we're going to do is look at some teachings from a lady by the name of Pema Chodron, who is an American Buddhist nun. And I like her readings and such because they are so clear. Maybe because, it's coming from that Western mind, if you will. And so I can understand some of the concepts that she shares with us in such a good way. And just to kind of share with you, here's what I do oftentimes before coming on to do this kind of broadcast is I get here a little bit early and I'll go into our library, and we have a number of books there. And a lot of the books are based on different groups that we have are using books to read or study, and you'll have those in there, plus an assortment of other things. Well, I'll go in there and kind of think, what is it that, we're going to talk about today? What is it that we need to share with each other today? And I kind of look at it like that. It's not so much, here's what I want to say, here's what I have to say, as much as, what is it that we need to say to each other in our virtual Facebook Live world. And so I go through, look at these books, and surprisingly, so many times there'll be a book that jumps out at me, or I'll open it up and read a short bit, and it's like, that's it. That is what we need to talk about right there. I can see it, And so today I did that. And usually, you open up the book and you kind of scroll through, start looking, and you find something that grabs your attention. Well, in this one, there were just things kept grabbing my attention. Kind of share and to remind ourselves, about. And it comes from, again, here we go, Pema Chodron's book, Comfortable with Uncertainty. And worthwhile checking out. What I like about it is each chapter is, looks like it's maybe 4 or 5 paragraphs, and that's it. And in that is the seed thought for that chapter. And I like working with seed thoughts because it helps me. And a seed thought, in a sense, is a simple concept, if you will, that you can kind of grasp and understand to some degree. And in your meditation practice, if you hold that seed thought and water it, as they say, or meditate upon it, then that seed begins to grow, and perhaps you have a more insight into it, or perhaps you have that aha moment about how that applies in your world and such. And so I wanted to share with you, I picked out 4, and this is 4 out of 40, I bet you, that were in this book, that I just wanted to share. And it's interesting because the meditation practice that I'm in, and the people that I talk to and such, we always seem to have these themes that kind of come up, and just in the course of discussion, and you can kind of get a read that, this seems to be kind of that theme. Last night we had one of, there were several, but one where when you meditate in a group of people, you feel safe, you feel supported, and you feel secure. And it's not too many times where you sit down in a room with a group of people and you can say all those things are happening, but that was that kind of theme. That was that seed thought. And that led to a short practice of a meditation on compassion, where that feeling of security and safety and supportiveness is part of an open heart meditation experience. So this is along those lines, and let's delve into this and kind of see what we find. I'm going to go on the first one here, and I've never heard this expressed this way before, and to me, when I read it, it just resonated, right? This is the chapter here is one paragraph, and the title is "What is Karma?" And it kind of goes on, talks a little bit about, a lot of people have some different ideas about it. Us in the West, seem to have the concept that when something bad's happening, you're being punished because you're a bad person, you've done something wrong. So we have that judgment guilt thing happening, and that probably isn't truly the karmic sort of things, you know. But here, I like this here. The idea of karma is that you continually get the teachings you need in order to open your heart. I thought, wow, golly, that's really a great way of saying that, isn't it? We get the teachings we need. We get the life experiences that we need to help us learn how to open our hearts. And it's like, boy, is that ever profound. And so the life teachings that me, myself, and I, the three of us, run across are things that really personally challenge me, you know, and are tough. And I have to really take that breath and slow myself down and kind of pause for a second and try to understand what's happening and such. And I think that as I do that, or try to do that, then possibly what's happening is that life experience that's coming my way, I'm learning from it instead of fighting it or hiding from it or pushing it away or whatever it is that is my defense mechanism. Instead of doing that, I try to turn around and face it and maybe embrace it and pay attention. And that karmic teaching then is helping me learning to do what? To open up my heart, okay? And I just want to go back a half step and say, boy, in this day and age that we live in, with how divided we are over everything and how easily we see all the differences that we have with everybody, it really does seem that these teachings related to compassion, open heart, listening to others, on and so forth, are more relevant now than it seems like they have been. So just to kind of say, anyway, seed thought number one, the idea of karma is that you continually get the teachings you need in order to open your heart. I think it's interesting that she uses the word continually. You continually get these teachings. I guess we keep getting these teachings until we learn them, huh? You know, have you ever had a friend that you knew that, why do they keep getting involved in these dysfunctional relationships? You know, my Lord, you think they could have figured it out by now? Yes, all of us are that way. We all have patterns of dysfunction or dis-ease that we are trying to resolve. And every time we find ourselves in a situation and that pattern gets reactivated, it's another opportunity to learn, to embrace, to open our hearts. So anyway, I like that a lot. I think that one's going to stick with me. Karma, new definition for karma, for me at least, okay? This next one is curiosity and the circle of compassion, all right? We find ourselves in a situation in which our buttons are being pushed and we can choose to repress or act out in order to deal with it. If you start practicing breathing, it's called breathing on the spot. Really what she's saying is Tong Lin, which is a Tibetan breathing exercise, very simple one, but breathing on the spot with the intention of keeping our hearts open. And this next part's interesting. We breathe through these challenges to keep our hearts open to the embarrassment or fear or anger that we feel. Then, to our surprise, we find that we also open our hearts to what the other person is feeling. Long story short, this was very interesting to me, is we are breathing through our reactivity to the situation so that we can allow ourselves to face our fears. And then when we face our fears, we better understand the fears in the other person. Unpack all of that, would you? I mean, that's a lot of It's a lot of information. It's a lot of insight that she has given us in just those few words. We talk about this a lot, and that is you have to take it off the mat. Your meditation practice is for you to practice centering yourself, let's just say, in the broad sense, right? You center yourself and you carry that experience throughout your day. Now, I know and you know, more likely than not, what really happens is we find a point of centeredness in our meditation, and then we engage in the day, and pretty soon we're back on autopilot, but the day will provide us opportunities to remind ourselves to breathe through this situation. And what's interesting, when you start breathing through this situation, what do? You open your heart to the embarrassment, fear, or anger that we feel. You're opening up your heart to the things that challenge you, right? It's the situations around us that are pushing our buttons. It's the people around us that are pushing our buttons. But when those buttons get pushed, then we have that opportunity to face our own fears and angers. Is anger a word? I don't know. Our own anger? We get to face this, and it's not that we're trying to conquer it. We're not trying to make it go away. We face it. We look at it, and we see it for what it is. And I think when we do that, we don't feed energy back into it. Sometimes when we fight our anger, fight our fear, we really pour energy back into it, and it just keeps it alive, you know. And sometimes you can't run away from it. That keeps it alive too. But sometimes you just have to look at it and breathe through it. So I like that one. All right. Number 3. We have 4 altogether. Hang in there with me, right? Number 3 is be great. The title of this chapter is Be Grateful to Everyone. Being grateful to everyone is about making peace with this is interesting, making peace with the aspects of ourselves that we have rejected. Let's read that one again, right? Being grateful to everyone is about making peace with the aspects of ourselves that we have rejected. Through doing that, we also make peace with the people we dislike. More to the point, being around people we dislike can be a catalyst for making friends with ourselves. So let's take that thought. Friends with ourselves, what's that? That's an interesting way of saying something that possibly maybe is like resolving the burdens that we carry to some degree, loosening up those burdens to some degree. We begin to be more accepting of who we are, our faults. We become more aware of our faults, our shortcomings, our strengths. You know, what there is that is worthy of love. We become more aware of these things within ourselves, right? And how do we do it? By being grateful to everyone. Being grateful to everyone is about making peace with the aspects of ourselves that we have rejected. And so the monkey mind is really good at dividing up things and seeing differences and comparing, you know, what we have to the other person has and all that sort of stuff. The meditative mind, on the other hand, lends itself being a bridge builder to those that are around, that we are around. And so you could say that your meditative practice, as you cultivate it, begins to yield some fruits, and maybe one of the fruits it yields is being grateful to everyone. I got to work on that. All right, thought number 4, last one. This one's called, This Very Moment is the Perfect Teacher. And it talks about as we become more open, we might think that that the catastrophes that we run into are the things, instead of crushing us, hurting us, causing pain, that these crises are the things that actually compel us to go deeper into our open hearts. And boy, to be able to really do that, if you've been through a crisis, and man, in these days, who hasn't? If you've been through any kind of crisis, you know that you get totally challenged on all levels, right? I mean, it's really big stuff. And to be able to go through that and to have the understanding that at that moment, that is your perfect teacher. Remember the thing about karma we talked about at first? Karma is life's way of giving us teaching opportunities to open our heart. And so here, the very moment of crisis is the perfect teacher. And so it really, I think that as we meditate a bit, then we do begin to see the world a little bit differently. And maybe when things happen to us or to the ones we love, and it is a crisis, to be able to begin to see that as that perfect teacher and to understand what that means for you and or for them and such. So 4 thoughts, right? So the idea of the 4 thoughts is these are seed thoughts. And you could take any one of these seed thoughts, and when you start your meditation, just hold on to that thought for a second. Pay attention to it. Don't try to analyze it or figure it out or whatever. You just lightly hold it in your hand, if you will, and let it stay there for a second and see if your intuitive mind can begin to play with it. Maybe a bad choice of words, I don't know, but I think you know what I mean. So let's take one. You pick one for yourself, maybe one of these 4, and let's do a short, what do we have, about 5 minutes or so? Let's do a short 5-minute meditation, holding a seed thought lightly in our hands. And what does that mean? It means that we start our meditation, we know that we do our posture, we do our breathing, and we begin to settle out and let our body settle out, and then let the meditative mind begin to come forward, and then possibly have that seed thought and imagine that thought. Maybe you actually see it, in your hand. You're holding it in your hand. Maybe it's something that you see in front of you. But the idea, that ability to kind of visualize it a little bit and just hold that image as you breathe out and just allow it to water that seed. So we'll do that here. In fact, we'll give it here 5 or 7 minutes of it, okay? See what goes on. All right. I'm not going to go through the usual routine of talking through the posture and the breathing. Let's just do that and hold our thought. All right, let's take a deep breath, open our eyes. And so sometimes it's interesting when you give the mind an idea and just allow your mind just to settle upon that seed thought, the associations that it begins to make and the insights that maybe you begin to have a little bit. For instance, for me, it was karma is that continual opportunity to open your heart. And as I held that, then immediately I became aware of certain relationships in my life that I hold so dear to me, and how grateful I am for the love that I have from these people and for the love that I have been able to give to these people, right? And it was kind of like, I kind of knew that, right? But to actually see it in a way that was visceral, and I could see it and feel it, and I was holding that in my hand, that's a good reminder. And if you're like me, it doesn't hurt for us to have good reminders every now and then, even about the things that we know that we know. Sometimes we just have to be reminded of it, and thus never lose appreciation for it. So that's the opportunity that we have. I think that, the title of this Facebook Live was, what was it? Meditation Warrior, right? And what you heard in Pema Chodron's work is having that strength, that courage to face the challenges that come our way, and to allow those challenges to become our teachers. And if we can do that, then we truly are meditation warriors, huh? So, thought for the day. If it makes sense to you, practice it. And if you practice it, listen to it, and let it guide you. Because you are your first teacher in that sense, isn't it? So, thank you guys very much for being part of our meditation family and for all the support that you have given us. So take care, and we will see you next time around. All right?